generally the first thing we want to do is to meet with the director and get all his or her specific notes about what they want to try and accomplish in the soundtrack. So ultimately, the director will kind of give the yay or nay to the sounds that I create. So generally, that's the way it works. So we'll get the notes, get the picture, start creating things, and then see how they work against it. Once we get to a point where I feel like this is working pretty well, you don't want to go so far into the process that if it doesn't work out and the director doesn't like the direction you've taken, that you haven't wasted all this time. So you try and get something, kind of sketch it out to where you think it's going to kind of present your idea, your concept, play it back for the director, and let the director make comments on that, kind of go from there. As a sound designer, we're responsible for the sounds throughout the whole film. Sometimes there'll be specific jobs where it's just one or two things, but generally we're trying to create the soundtrack for the film. So we go through the entire film and pick out the spots where we need sound design more than we need the editorial side of things, where we edit together some of the more the stuff that we have in our library, which is very extensive. So each reel has its moments of where it needs sound design. So one example, working with a director, one of the things I came up with a bunch of ideas. One of the ideas the director wanted me to work on was come up with kind of this sci-fi subtext, like maybe as if the character might have been receiving transmissions, like these subtle transmissions from outer space. So I came up with a bunch of stuff like that and sent him off, and he actually took some of those and edited them into places where probably most people in their right mind wouldn't have put in, because they would have thought maybe that's kind of just too far out there. But it was kind of a great way to work, just giving a bunch of sounds to the director, letting the director find the sounds he liked and put them in the places where he wanted them, which most of the time you feel a little maybe hesitant to go too far out there, because a lot of times I don't want to get too crazy. The typical time to do sound design for a film, it runs anywhere, probably 3 months is about typical. Don't always get that full amount of time. Usually it'll start anywhere from around 6 weeks to 8 weeks, and then depending on how involved the project is, maybe 3 months. Generally, we don't get a whole lot more than that. It can be a lot of times we're working pretty fast. There's not a lot of time to explore certain avenues, which maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. I don't know. Certainly, exploration is the big time element. You can spend a lot of time with a sound that you might think suggests something, that it might turn into this great sound, and it might be a great sound, but it might not be applicable to the film you're working on, which then ultimately you've wasted a day on something that is of no use at all. So kind of have to use some discretion, but you also don't want to kind of shut down the whole creative process of finding out what works and what doesn't work.